Welcome to Nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter. We have the NBA Finals set, folks. It's going to be the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But before we break down what we think is going to happen and give our predictions for the finals, let's go and recap this game six between the Pacers and the Knicks. And Uncle Dave, before I get into what happened, what was your overall assessment and thoughts of the game? It was fun to watch. Saturday night was a blast for sure.
Well, being living in New York, and we talked about this before, it's hard to root for New York teams, and people always ask me how I don't. Um,
It's
because
easy.
the fans here are always think that you're the worst when you lose that's ever
Yeah.
existed, and you're the best that's ever existed
It's
when you
two up
win,
and down. Yeah, it's two up and down. Yep.
and they never can put on an analytical hat. So the stuff I hear on WFAN this morning from guys who really don't know anything about basketball, calling Carl Anthony Towns a losing player or a loser when he just had the best playoffs of his life, which, he still is what he is. He's slow of
Yeah.
foot.
Yeah.
Took the ball and drove it to the basket like a banshee this
I
series.
think he's
This
played tougher than he's ever played in his career this year.
exactly. But of course, if you lose, we all forgive Josh Hart. We forgive, Jalen Brunson. We forgive the fact that we got beaten transition. So yeah, is Carl Anthony Towns part of the problem? Yes, but the game I thought the other night, the Knicks were, kind of fortunate to be down four at the half, but the pace was all wrong. Although they did get a big lead in game one, playing the pace being all wrong. The game was a great game, but the kid, the big fella, the kid from University of Indiana, who graduated in 2017, comes off the bench and nails three threes because Bradley's hurt.
Yeah,
And
the stats that stick out is the 17 turnovers and the nine missed free throws. I mean, that's the game right there. You always look to the
yeah,
box
well,
score for
the
game
turnovers
in that.
are
Yep.
the turnovers are everything every night, and you sit there and you look at those stats the other night from that game. I mean, if you look at points off turnovers again, Knicks are giving up just ridiculous amounts of points. I think they gave up 27 off those turnovers. But look at the others, as Shaq always calls them. The problem with the Pacers is there are really no others. It's just a bunch of good players. This team reminds me a lot of like I know it's a similar coach, but Dirk Nowitzki's team. Dirk was a star, but they really don't have a star. I mean, Neesmith 4 for 8, Pascal 10 for 18, Turner 4 for 6. Nemhard finally showed up and hit three shots. Until game six, I thought Nemhard was the biggest goat in the series for Indiana.
He had a big
He
steal
finally,
against Brunson too
yep, he
in the middle of
finally
the
hits
court.
three shots in the second half and gets them going. 9 for 17 for Halliburton. I mean, look at that. They shot 54%. How about the defense?
Yes.
So, like, you can sit there and call Towns all you want, and you have every right to do that. But at the same time, you know, and an OB 10 for 18 doesn't get enough touches. Mitchell Robinson coming out and not playing a lot in the second half, I think, is the one thing you could criticize Tibbs for in game six. This guy had 5 offensive rebounds in the first half and 6 points. Second half doesn't really get involved. So I think he was their best player in the first half. But Mikal Bridges goes 6 for 9, so you got to ask yourself, why is he only taking 9 shots then? And this is where that ball dominant offense of the Luka, the James Harden, or the Jalen Brunson does not work in the playoffs. The Knicks had two or three of their best runs in the whole series without Brunson on the floor. No, that doesn't mean they're better, but it does mean that other guys can play, and there are other ways you could attack and keep Brunson fresher. And they did that. They had Bridges bring up the ball a lot, which was good. But you can keep this guy fresher if you take him off the ball. We talked about this with guys like Iverson. I never understood this. It's easier to score without the ball. But at the same time, you know, that offense of just one guy pounding away at that damn ball, I just don't know if that's going to work. I just don't know if that's the way anymore to do this.
Yeah, it's
Didn't
too.
work with Luka, and it doesn't work with James Harden.
Well, it was kind of what in the Last Dance documentary, that was the thing that Michael Jordan had to come to the conclusion of, that he was on the ball too much and that you had to spread the wealth a little bit there in order to for the team success to take it to the next level. I think that's kind of what you're going to have to go through here with the Knicks. I think you have to come to
Yeah,
Brunson and say, "Hey, we just have to take you off the ball, not a lot, just 10% more." And I think that would make a world of difference, I think, for them. And I think their
sure.
off-season challenges, I think, or things they need to address. I think desperately in this series, it stood out. They need a backup point guard. They need someone who could, I think, run the show when he's off the floor.
I
And if
think the
I
kid's
was,
on the bench.
yeah,
Tyler Kolek, he's a great point guard.
you might want it. So you have to do that next year though, whether it's you acquire someone or you get someone some seasoning for next year during the regular season. That's something that they have to address. I think you have to
Yeah.
also get a backup center because Robinson and Towns have always been hurt historically. So you might want to address
Yes.
that. And you just need another scorer off the bench. So I think you address maybe two or out of the three of those things, and you could be back here next year with a chance. But you know what? Charles Barkley talked about it. The guys on TNT. It's true. Game one, this is the series that they're going to look at.
Yep.
It's you blew
Yeah, the
game one.
game it's 3-3. We're getting ready for we had a
Exactly.
game tonight.
Exactly. So game
Should have
one
had a game tonight.
and game two, they lose on their home floor by 5 points. So I mean, the Knicks. If you're a Knicks fan, you're thinking you should have won this series, or you're a player, or you're a coach on that team. There's
You
no
should be
doubt.
playing tonight. You should at
Yeah.
least be playing tonight. That's not going on the limb when you're up 14 with 2:35 left. That's never happened in the history of NBA before in a playoff game. So that's pretty strong odds. So you're 3-3 right now, and somewhere you're in the first half, and you're about 5 minutes left in the first half. And that's that game. We said that. We said that to you after game one. We said, look, you don't blow those games and win these series. You just don't do it.
Yep.
It's very rare to do that. Like I said, you have to go to baseball before you can find a team blowing leads like that and winning games. That's the Arizona Diamondbacks. But those games are timeless. Baseball has no time. That's the difference.
The
The big
stat
difference.
that the
But
stat that I saw that was just mind-boggling to me that I saw on NBA.com is this: teams trailing by at least 14 points in the final 2:45 of the fourth quarter have been 994 and 0 since detailed play-by-play began being kept in 97, 98. I
sure.
mean, that to me is staggering that this is since
And
97,
that's just since
98.
98.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you that the only time I ever saw Isaiah Thomas was 8 with a minute 38. He scored 16 points in 2.5 minutes, but they didn't have that big a lead. So I'm here to tell you, I watched that game and have never seen anything like it. I've watched a lot of playoff basketball since 1977, and I would remember it. And
I'm
trust me,
surprised in that amount of time in the NBA. That's what? It's 28 seasons there, or what, or close to it, right?
sure,
1997.
sure.
That to
And
me
I
is
go
an
back
amazing
further than that.
stat.
I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
48 seasons.
I'm surprised we've not had one comeback in that amount of time and since 97, 98 in the NBA. I'm surprised that's not happened. That's incredible because 14 in 245, it's doable. It's hard, obviously, but that's
Well, the
doable.
funniest thing about that comeback is it's not a 14-0 run either. It's a 20-6 run. So the Knicks even scored 6 points, which usually ends the comeback. But they missed a couple of foul shots, a couple of bad turnovers, and Brunson to pass Anunoby should have pulled that out. You're up 12 with 34 seconds left.
Yeah.
You're up, no, they're up 6 with 34 seconds left, right? It was 6, and you
Yes.
had 12 on the shot clock. Pull the ball out, make them foul you. Game's over.
Yeah, I think what also getting back to this game six, the third quarter, the Pacers just come out blazing in this third quarter. I think that's also what set the tone. It was in the
Sure.
quarter here. The point differential was Indiana plus 11. They had 15 fast break points in the third quarter, and points off turnovers on the Knicks was 14. And Thomas Bryant went 2 of 3 from three. And just a little bit about
Sure.
him. This is a guy who played in previous before this playoff. He only had played in 2 games and had gotten 9 minutes for the Heat,
Right.
23-24. So this is a guy he's been in the league since 2017, but basically has no playoff experience. And he comes
Play
in
for
and
the Nuggets
plays,
too.
and yeah, and he plays incredible. But in that Nuggets, they win against the Heat, but he didn't play at all. He had no experience from that standpoint. Incredible how he comes in and is just a great producer. He scores in the Cleveland series 18 points total in the whole series, and then this last series 15 points, but he had 6 huge points though for the
Yeah.
Pacers in this game here. So just an example of a guy staying ready and being patient.
Yeah. Well, that's the lesson. He also played for some bad Wizard teams, and there's a thing that the Wizards probably couldn't hold him. And you see a lot of people this week bitching about of course, we don't have Toppin anymore, blah blah blah. But that's 3 years ago. So to sit there and act like this happened yesterday, Toppin, that's 3 years ago already. They had to get rid of him, or else you wouldn't have some of these other guys. You wouldn't have Hart. You wouldn't have other guys. Josh Hart didn't play well the other night. We got to say that too. He did not adjust well to coming off the bench. Whatever reason, he just did not
Offensively, I
adjust
feel
well.
like he's way down than what he was last year. I don't know if that's just me, but it
Well,
just
he's
seems
not
like
confident right now. He's
his
shooting a jump shot. I'll tell
I
you
feel
that.
like he's kind of gotten like the Draymond syndrome now with, posts like Kevin Durant being on the team. He's just offensively
Sure.
doesn't feel like he's much of a threat as like he used to be. Last year, it just seemed like he scored way more than he was doing this year.
Sure. Well, the other thing too is, he's not getting as many shots. He's not feeling to take as many shots. He's just not there.
Yeah.
So, he's not going to be willing to really, get out there and put himself out there if he's not going to be able to get the ball, get steady minutes. But he should have took some more threes. He was a better 3-point shooter than that last year. But for whatever reason, everybody's got their reason. But yeah, they're going to try to blame Tibbs for this series, but Tibbs played his bench a ton and they lost. When he went to a different lineup, they played better. So obviously he can coach. But my one beef was Robinson in game 6, not playing more in the second half. He was the best player in the first half. The other thing is, people already talking about, cat for Giannis. Well, Cat averaged 24 and 12 for the series. Now, I know that we've always said this is the easiest league to put up meaningless numbers in, but those were meaningless numbers. He took Indiana guys who are smaller than him, which means they should be quicker. He took them off the dribbles going right from the top of the key all series, and that's pretty good because you know what? Pascal Siakam's about 3 or 4 inches shorter and about 100 pounds lighter, and he
Oh,
still took him off the dribble.
Towns had his, you talked about historically, and in this series, it proved to be the same. Towns against Indiana offensively, he's had his way with those guys, Turner and
Oh,
Siakam.
sure.
He scored on them. He had no problem doing that in this series too. I thought Karl Anthony Towns, he could argue he was their best player overall, I think, in this
Sure.
series. Anunoby was great too. I think he was a model of
Yeah.
consistency. He really played great, I thought as well. I
Yeah,
think what
Anunoby doesn't
also
get enough credit.
what also I thought hurt the Knicks is Deuce McBride hits a big three in the corner and he stepped out of bounds. And the next possession, Obi Toppin bangs a
Funny,
three.
he was inbounds though. They missed that call.
Yeah, they didn't
If
show
you
it.
watch that replay, he missed it.
Yeah, so I thought that was a big play right there. And Halliburton, he had about 3 or 4 shots in the fourth quarter, just those push float shots from the foul line
Right. Yep.
that were just incredible. I mean, I thought he really, I mean, there are some games where he was not, I think, his best self, and he'd be the first to say it. But he just had some great games. I mean, historically, the game he had, what was it, game 4, where he had 34 points and 12 assists and 0 turnovers, might be one of the best playoff performances ever. I mean,
Yes, that was.
he was incredible. But yeah, his float game in the fourth quarter, making I think it was at least 3 of those shots, was just incredible. His ability to get guys involved and just I thought he was incredible. I thought in this game as well. Pascal Siakam too. Miles Turner talked about in his press conference. This guy, he won a G League championship. He was MVP of the G League, and he won with the Raptors. This guy is just a model of consistency as well. So it's not a surprise. So now Rick Carlisle going to his second NBA Finals here. So like we talked about, if he wins another one, I just look at him as in a different light with this group.
Yeah, and I see that in this series too, Karl Anthony Towns shot 50%. The Knicks shot the ball well in the series because the Pacers don't really defend that well. But at the same time, I think this series you're gonna see a lot of schemes because I still think OKC, we'll talk about in a minute, it's not been pushed. I don't think they've played a good team yet. I really believe that.
Yeah, we'll get into what we think is going to happen there for sure in a minute. I think also what stood out too is, and Stan Van Gundy talked about it, even on makes, Indiana pushed the ball and got some baskets in this game too
Four
as well.
times. Yep.
I mean,
Yep. Game 6.
just incredible. I mean, you don't see it looked like it almost felt Uncle Dave like some of those AAU games like in the summer where it's just where teams just do that. You don't see that in an NBA game though. I mean, it was just incredible
Not 4 times.
to
Yeah,
see
it's
some of
crazy.
those, to see them getting out and running like that. I was like, wow, it just was incredible to see that. So I think matchup wise, it's obviously going to be fun to see what the Pacers and the Thunder. But uh, what do you make of these reports, Uncle Dave, that are out? And I don't know if there's any names attached to them. I haven't seen any where the Knicks apparently the staff or the players were frustrated sometimes with Karl Anthony Towns defensively. They sometimes was cheap fouls and things like that.
Yeah, well, the bad news is you know how it goes. It's the old Friday Night Lights quote. So now that you lost, these guys get paid by clicks, so they're going to write stories of anonymous people, which probably means A, it's bullshit, or two, there's some truth to it, but nobody will put their name to it. Again, this guy's trying to get clicks. Of course, they're frustrated with the guy. He's never played defense anywhere he's been. He's slow of foot. He has no lateral movement. Either is Jalen Brunson.
Right.
Every time Halliburton got the ball up top on a switch and Brunson had to cover him, he splashed a three in his face. Those are your two guys. We've talked about this. The NBA Finals is totally different. Again, you're not rolling in on a Tuesday night and playing a team on Wednesday where they have no time to prepare for you. You've had 2 weeks of just Knicks. And so in those 2 weeks, you realize that Brunson's exploitable and Towns is exploitable, just like Luka was exploitable last year. they fucking isolated people and just made Lucas stand there by himself because they just know how bad he is on defense. Carl Anthony Towns is a lot of things. He's not going to ever have lateral quickness. And this is what's frustrating. You knew who this guy was when you got him,
Yeah,
and he actually
exactly.
performed.
Yeah, and he's been in
You
the league
actually performed better.
exactly. He's been in the league too for years, so it's not
Yeah,
like he
10
said
years.
exactly. So
So the funny thing is, this is best playoff he's ever had, and yet it's not enough. And I know you want to win, but my point is, you don't have to shatter this shit right here. Get a little more depth.
you could
Try
win
to
with him
tinker.
at you could win with him at center. Like I said, if I'm the Knicks, I'm thinking I should have won this series here. I should have won game one, and game two was close. I feel like I should have won. I don't think you really have to change that much.
You know,
You don't have to heap blame on a guy either. Mitchell Robinson came out and said I could have done a better job, and I thought he was good too. I think this wasn't that the Knicks were didn't play up their potential or anything like that, or Tibbs got coached terribly. I think just the Pacers are a little bit of a better team, and that's what happened. That's the better team won, I
well,
think.
and the Pacers and styles make fights, and the Pacers' style is hard to deal with.
Yes.
And plus, the Knicks should play a couple of guys a little more during regular season. We know that Shaman has shown he can play. He's probably
He
going to
went
get a
four.
job somewhere.
He went 4 of 7 from three. This is a guy when he was with the Clippers. He had a 30-point performance with them when they played against the Warriors years ago.
Yep.
So this is a guy who could put it in the bucket. So you have to ask yourself if you're Thibs, I should have went to this guy sooner. I think that's one thing I would criticize him on is that
Sure.
you
And
have to
Deuce
prepare your
McBride did not play well. Deuce
yes.
McBride didn't play well, so go to Shamit. But the problem is like the minute Tibbs does something different, people are like, well, you got to stick with your guys. And then if he doesn't stick with his guys,
Yeah, it's
then they
just
say, well, you
crazy.
got to stick with his
Yeah, you're
guys. If you
damned if you
don't,
do, you're damned if you don't. Yeah.
so in New York media, it's just impossible. So like, well, we're changing the lineup. I don't know if Hart's going to like that. Well, you just said you wanted him to coach. Now he's coaching, and you don't like what he's coaching. So just tell me you're not going to like whatever the fuck I do, and we'll discover that together.
Yeah, it's
But the
easy
point
to
is,
blame
like,
quarterback.
this team is just they're a good team, but the problem is your window can close quick. And I'm telling you, the Magic and the Pistons are coming. The Celtics will be down next year.
And Cleveland will be
We'll
back
see.
too.
Yep, we'll see what the Cavs do. So this window is open. And the Pacers will be back. There's 5 teams there. You got to see what the Bucks do. Maybe the Heat get Durant. We'll see. There's 5 teams there right now. You got to take a good look. You got to analyze it, but you could be better next year and not make it back to the
I know.
conference
It's
finals.
the Magic, a guy like Bancaro, he could just take over next year and just be that much better. You never know what these
Yeah,
teams. Pistons look pretty damn good. If you're Detroit, you thought you should have beat the Knicks in that series.
but that's the problem. So like here you are, and like you think that you're automatically going to get back there. You're
No,
not.
you're
So
not.
here's a team.
You're not.
First time in 25 years. Now I'm a guy who follows basketball. This town has been dead in May for 25 years of basketball.
It has, yeah.
So and the New Jersey Nets don't count, or the Brooklyn Nets don't count. All right, I don't want to hear bullshit about that. That doesn't count. Nobody gives a shit.
And the Carmelo
Right?
years, I mean, they were in the playoffs, but you never thought that they were
Exactly.
a real contender.
Carmelo
Yeah.
is so soft. But
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
never
like,
thought they were a real
so
contender.
here's this guy. Like you're gonna bitch. You could pay a guy $80 million if he's a $20 million player. He's a $20 million player. The Mets played this guy before you, right when you were born, named Bobby Bonilla. Bobby Bonilla was a 280 hitter. Bobby Bonilla, you paid him the biggest contract in history. He's still getting paid, by the way.
Yes.
That's the joke, Bobby Bonilla Day. But it doesn't make him that level of player because you pay him more. He still is what you paid him to be. So if I average 10 a game and you up my salary, it doesn't mean I'm more than 10 a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what is Mitchell Rod. This is what happened with, Carl Anthony Towns. He had a great playoff for him, shot 50%, 12 boards, 24 points. Now, again, we talked about lightness, but he wasn't horrendous. But yeah, does he get dumb fouls? Yes, he does. But I still think they should have posted him up more because I think he's a decent passer and has decent offensive skills. But they didn't do that. So, whatever reason, I think I'd run a little more post ups next year for the Knicks. Hopefully, you're a little healthier with Robinson. And you got to get Jalen playing 36 minutes a night in the regular season.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, he
You
can't be,
got to do it.
I think, that much. Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you can't get Hart or Bridges, they gave up too much for Bridges, by the way. If you're not going to get Hart or Bridges to play point, then you got to find a backup point and let Shamit do it. Shamit played point his whole life in college. See if he can do it.
Yeah, I think, and also you look at the series stats, Uncle Dave here. The Pacers they shoot 6% better from three, and they shoot 2% better from the free throw line. So you add those things up, and
Get fast break points.
they turn the ball over three less times than the Knicks. So you add up all those things over the course of a 7-game series, and that's what happens.
Yeah, what's the fast break points too? I mean, that's the key.
Yeah,
What do they get on fast break? I mean, it's just a totally different world. I mean, they shot 6% better, like you said, from three. That's enormous. And the rebounds they lost, we knew they would. The assist that was a lot. 6 assists more a game is a lot. That's significant.
Yes.
And like you said, three less turnovers. And if we had the turnover stats in front of us, fast break points in the series, we're not even close. So overall, I think a great year for the Knicks. Or does it mean you met your goal? No, of course not. But at the same time, like this town's been empty since 2000 with this. So you know, I think these people just overreact, and that's why it's really hard because right, just when you feel good about the Knicks, the fans piss you off, and then
Yes.
you say to yourself, "God, they're spoiled rotten."
Yeah, and what's there to be spoiled rotten over?
Exactly.
I think a huge play too in this game was the Knicks have a fast break. There's 18 seconds left. Josh Hart and Towns are on a fast break, and Obi Toppin's the only guy back. And there's like a miscommunication. Hart gets in between an alley-oop and a shot, and then Halliburton goes the length of the court and gets a dunk right before the
Yep.
end of the fourth quarter. So I mean, that's a 4 point swing right there. I thought that was a back-breaking play for the Knicks right there. That one.
He also had the 3 point swing when he stepped out of bounds, and he didn't step out of bounds. Then they come down and bang a three. Toppin came down and hit one.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a 6 point swing. So it's 15 at the end of the quarter, I believe, right?
Yes, they were down 15 going into the fourth.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But I think Rick Carlisle also I think proved what an excellent coach he is as well. I mean he's in this position for a reason. Going back to the finals again here. What do you think with the coaches? I think Tibbs wise and Rick Carlisle. I think we talked about it the overall. I think Tibbs he gambled playing those guys that haven't gotten any real postseason run. But Shamet wound up playing pretty decently for him, and DeLon Wright. If you could ask him, I think he would have liked to have worked those guys maybe into the rotation in the previous playoff series that the Knicks had. And oh, by
Yeah.
the way, how about T.J. McConnell? The Knicks lay off him, and he just bangs a three at the top of the key.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. TJ, everybody loves him, but every game he's come in the last 4 games, he's had double digit, not double digit, back to back turnovers in a couple of possessions. He's driving me
Yes.
crazy. He's a great little player, but he's taking too many chances. And the idea of him is don't turn the ball over. And that's the key stat of the series is transition points. If you go look at the points given up off of transition, it's just not even close. It's disgraceful. So like the other night, I mean, the transition points the other night were, I know they'd given up 27 points off of turnovers in that one game and 34 the other night. So I mean, you can't win like that. You can't give up easy baskets. 4 times off of baskets, you got beat down the court. Just can't do that.
Yeah, the Knicks they had too many of those, and I don't know if that's just a communication issue or fatigue, but that happened a bunch in this game. Though Game 6, it was like I said, if they feel like this one definitely got away.
If you jam Halliburton on those plays aren't made because every one of them was made from Halliburton. Halliburton throwing right over the top. And it just wasn't they didn't jam him. You got to jam the outlet man.
I think a great, also another big play in this game is too Bridges. He's trying to attack in the middle, and Pascal Siakam pokes the ball away, and then the
Yep,
Pacers get a uncontested dunk on the other end here. It's just guys
no
that
doubt.
just are winning plays. Guys that are just very blue collar. Pascal Siakam is just he's one of these guys no one's going to remember in 15 years. He's just been great,
Yep,
and they're able to beat you by just death of a thousand paper cuts, and then the floodgates open up on you sometimes, and
sure.
these guys get going. So they're a very tough team. I think it just the better team won, but it's a tough pill to swallow because I think the Knicks obviously they proved to be a very good team this year as well. But I think they might have overachieved. I think a bit, like you said, to push that
Yeah.
boulder up the cliff again next season. That's tough. You have to go through a whole regular season unscathed. And Towns, I worry about that. And Robinson, these are guys who have had injuries throughout the course of their
Very
career.
tough.
It's going to be, I think, very difficult. I think obviously every year is, but. I think the big mindset I think for the Knicks is just because they got to the Eastern Conference Finals this year is just don't think it's gonna just happen out of thin air next year. I think that's kind of what happened with the Rockets with Harden all those years. They just eventually thought it
Sure.
was theirs for the taking and they were just entitled to it, and it doesn't work that way.
No, it sure doesn't. It's very tough. It does not work that way. And it's you got to push it up the hill, and then you got to start all over again at training camp, and it's hard, and it gets bored. You get bored in January and February, and then all of a sudden March comes, you can sniff the playoffs.
But I thought it was showed really great resilience by Indiana though. They open up with a 9-0 run in the third quarter, and then the Knicks they call a timeout, and then it's immediate 7-0 run, and then
Yep,
the Pacers go back with a 9-0 run. So it just goes to
yep,
show you what a game of runs this is.
sure,
But
sure. It
Indiana,
was a great.
obviously. Rick Carl, the player coach relationship, I think he can't overstate that enough right there. And I think there's just a great
No.
chemistry. And Miles Turner even said it. It's kind of a sappy kind of saying. He's like, the days of the big threes and everything, I think those are done. He's like, we're doing it with friendship.
Well,
So
I
thought
again
that was
reminds
kind
me of
of cool to hear.
I guess we could. I mean, was Dirk still a superstar when he won that championship? I
Yes.
guess he was.
Yes, he was. He was. Absolutely, he was.
So the thing is, but he wasn't this big time athlete, but he's a freakishly skilled player. But the Pacers, Halliburton will never be, top five point guard of all time, and Siakam's not going to be top five small forward, SGA will be something great, obviously, for the Thunder. But don't forget, SGA is not a kid. He's been out there 6 years already, I believe. So I mean, it's not like there's a LeBron or a KD. It took Curry a couple of years too. So that's why I'm really refreshed by this finals. I just think that this finals has some subtle things that the Vegas line and other people are not talking about.
Well, definitely, Uncle Dave. Is there anything else you want to mention about this Knicks and Pacers series before we move on to the Timberwolves and the Thunder? I think we
No,
touch base
nothing.
on it. Obviously, I think the game five that the Pacers won, I think that's just an all-time great performance by Halliburton. Then game six of the guard, the Knicks just kind of handled that one easily throughout.
Yep.
That,
Yep.
that you game five, I mean, that usually happens with a team that's playing with
Sure.
desperation, so they look good. And obviously,
Desperation.
this was the challenge. And you know what? This kind of felt like a game seven, this game six here. I think Indiana knew, hey, we got to put all our eggs in this basket here because if you're a true NBA fan, we will know this that the Pacers they had a chance in '94 against the Knicks at home, game six to wrap it up and go to the NBA Finals against the Rockets, but the Knicks wind up
Sure
winning
did.
the game. John Starks has a big game, and they wind up then closing
Remember
it
it
out
well.
in game seven. So the Pacers
Remember it
were
well.
in a very similar situation here, and this difference is this Indiana team was able to win it at home, and you got to look at it. I think if you have a situation where you're the underdog and you have your game six at home to close it out, you have to feel like that's your game seven. You have to win that game, and
Sure.
the
I
Pacers
agree.
did that. It was nice to see Reggie Miller also hand out the MVP trophy and the Eastern Conference champion trophy,
Sure.
with him being an Indiana legend and a great pacer himself 25 years later
Sure.
after them going to the finals against the Knicks, actually, too. The
Sure.
only difference was they were able to wrap it up in New York, and this time they're able to do it in Indiana. And Rick Carlisle, I think, had a great quote. He says, "In 49 other states, it's basketball, but here it's something different. It's true. In Indiana, it's
That's right. Indiana's different.
yeah,
Indiana and Carolina are different.
yep, sure, surely. And obviously, New York, it's a great, we're the Mecca, but in the Indiana too, it's a lifestyle over there. You definitely can't
Right.
underestimate that for sure. It's certainly special over
Right.
there in Indiana basketball. But definitely a great series, and the Pacers now will be in the finals. And then the Timberwolves and the Thunder, Uncle Dave. You know what? I talked about it. I called it. I said 5 games I thought this would go,
Yep.
and that's exactly
Yep.
what happens. So, folks, on this show, me and my uncle definitely were right on the money in the conference finals here. We also said that both series would go 3-1. We thought the Pacers and the Knicks would be 3-1, and the Timberwolves and the Thunder would be 3-1, and both those series wound up
Yes.
being 3-1 as well. So we were right on that as well.
Yeah, the funny thing about this Minnesota series was so disappointing because Randall just he wouldn't adjust and get in that high post, and the coaching staff couldn't find a way to get him there. And again, I don't think they still use Mike Conley enough. Why is Mike Conley playing 22 minutes a night when all you need is a point guard to attack that little sloughing defense and sometimes zone defense that you had? Naz Reid, 45% for the series. Rudy Gobert, 52% for the series. That's not enough shots. DiVincenzo, gets his 10 points a game for the series, but you can't have a center playing 26 minutes a night getting you 5.8 points a
No,
game. I
that's the
mean, you just
problem.
can't do it.
Gobert is just so limited offensively. I think the key to them is you got to find a way to get DiVincenzo to play for you like how he's playing for the Knicks. That's what you have to find,
Yep.
I think.
Yep.
I think that's the big offseason thing. And can Edwards and McDaniels, can those guys just get a little better?
Yeah,
That's I
McDaniels had a bad series, 43%. I know he's chasing Shea, but 43% is not enough. Edwards 47%, Randall 48. It's they did not shoot well for the series. And conversely, Shea only shot 46%, but lived at the free throw line. So he's obviously getting 10 free throw attempts a game in the series, 31 points a game. He's very smooth. He reminds me of D Wade, except not as thick of a body, but very smooth. Doesn't love the three. That's not his first choice. Chet Holmgren stepped up in a couple of games here. Obviously, Caruso is the king of the deflection and defense. Lou Dort had his moments, but didn't shoot well. Hottenstein had his moments, but he also had some moments where he was shaky too. So Williams played very well, Jalen Williams. So it's stud Jalen Williams, we'll say. 22 points a game, had a nice series, 49%. You like to see that. 6 rebounds for the series too, a game, and 4.4 assists. That's what Jalen Williams is underrated. But you know what? This series was just ugly because Minnesota in that game 5 just quit. They didn't even engage.
Yeah, I think they were just able to kind of take their will a little bit. The Thunder have the ability to do that. Defensively, they're like the Marabunta in Naked Jungle. They just consume you.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about them is they sit there. That game is 7-6, and then the quarter ends. It's 26-9.
Yeah, there's just times I
Crazy.
think Edwards just needs to have the mindset that I'm locked in the whole game. There's just times where he's just another man out there. Frustrated from that standpoint. And it sucks this game 5 in which they get eliminated. He's 7 of 18, 19 points, and he talked about it in the post game. He just was making the right play, he thought, but you'd like to
Oh
see a guy
gosh.
like that kind of go fight. And I know there's quotes of Larry Bird saying, "Hey, if you guys don't pick it up, I'm going to take every shot out here." Uh,
Yeah.
I think
Well,
you
the other
kind
thing
of have
is like someone's got to tell them you are the right play.
exactly right, exactly. You have to just go and do it. But Julius Randle too. I mean, again, he's hot and he's cold some nights. That's it. You just know what you're going to get with him. It's his 11th year in the league. You know what he is. There's games where he could be the best player on the floor, and then there's games where he's just quiet as a church mouse. So it's just
Yeah.
which Julius are you going to get? Obviously,
And
the GMing. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Minnesota tries to do. Like I said, I think you just have to try to get DiVincenzo to another level, like how he was with the Knicks. He's got that in him and you just have to find that. I think you have to get him on those nights where he was some nights. I understand the Knicks had injuries, so he had more opportunity last year. But there's some nights where he's getting 25 plus. You need to try to crack that code. I think with him.
you laugh, but there might be a team that KD for the big Frenchman and a couple of other players
I
because
know,
they
I know. Yeah, no, it could
because
happen.
not Naz Reid could play center if you had to. In today's NBA, you could get away with that.
Oh, especially if you have
Randall,
KD and him out there, because Nas Reed's 6'10" himself.
exactly. So you could do that. Guards that could give you a couple of minutes. He's not good, but Rudy's got a big contract. That's why I say that. Phoenix looking to dump, and Phoenix at least gets a post player
Plus, you
back.
could always find a backup. You could find a backup center on the free agent market.
And I think they're one of those teams that's a guard or two away. They do need another shooter on the floor. And if you're only going to play your point guard 22 minutes, and you got to get another one, you got to go get a guy that's going to run your team for you. And sadly, they're going to be everybody's. The Celtics still have my man. You know, my man at the point there, who's got some. He's got a couple of years left on his contract at 20, basically about 20 million, 30 million in 3 years. Drew Holiday, but at the same time, like. If I'm the Celts, I'm not giving that up yet, but some teams are going to call because the Celts next year are probably going to assume that they're not going to be there and they'll give it up too quick.
Think what also stands out with the Timberwolves too is Nas Reed shoots 22% from three, and Anthony Edwards is 28. I think that's a difference in the series right there. You need those guys
Yeah,
to shoot the outside shot better.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and Anthony Edwards from the foul line too, only 68%. It's just some
Yeah,
stats out there that just I think also there's no mistaking it too. The Thunder are just a better team. The Timberwolves just
they
have to
are.
just get better, just some way. The one good thing about them is you have a very young team, so you have guys who could just naturally, with your player development, just maybe take it up another notch for next year. So
Well,
we'll see what
that's why
happens with that.
that's why this series is, the kid Shannon needs to play a lot next year. I think if he's not really a point, but you got to try to make him a point.
Yeah, you got to
Maybe
see
he
if
can
you can
handle the
get
ball
him to
for
be
you.
a. You got to see if you can get him to be a big addition next year as a rotational
But
player.
but
Yep.
the hidden number here for the Thunder is that they're not a great 3-point shooting team either. If you remember, they've had some games in this playoff and where they've played against Memphis, who looked awful, and Memphis has beaten them by 30 at the half until Stud gets hurt. Then you got a game where they played a crappy. I mean, I can't believe that the Nuggets took this team to 7 when the Nuggets have no depth at all.
Yeah, and
It
it's
just goes
really
to show you
scary when
how.
you think about it. You're like the
Right.
Thunder, the Nuggets were banged up. Porter and Aaron Gordon
Yep.
were hurt.
Yep. And we have no bench. It shows you how good Joker is. And
Yeah, exactly.
the
Oh my
bottom line
God,
is
if he
the
just played a
Thunder
little bit
probably
better, they could have
yeah,
won, right?
the Thunder probably doesn't win if it's not for Caruso. So Caruso and Jalen Williams are going to decide this series from the 3-point line. And this is where Rick Carlisle's got to draw out that zone. He ran it a couple of times versus the Knicks. I thought he'd do it a little more. He didn't. But the Thunder, well coached also. I don't know if you can play the Pacers zone, but I believe that you could play the Thunder some zone. And
Yeah.
that's why I think that
Gonna
the
be a
hidden
great
thing
gonna
is
be
I
a
think
great coaching battle. So I guess
yeah,
we'll transition to that, Uncle Dave. What are the key takeaways you think or for
well,
this
like I said,
series?
I think that Carlisle's got to try some zone here because I don't think on paper they're better than them man to man. Now Neesmith's going to be healthy now, which is nice. I like him a lot.
It's interesting
But
because in this series, I think the Pacers are like the Thunder of the East. They have it's a little
yeah,
obviously it's different, but both teams have depth. Both teams can play fast. I
yep,
think obviously the Thunder are an excellent defensive team. The Pacers not so much, but the Pacers are a
right,
better offensive team. So it's like, what's going to
right.
happen here?
Well, the funny thing is the Pacers have a couple of LeBron killers, except they're going to be guarding Shea. So they have people that are going to cover. They got Nemhart, they got Nesmith that can cover. All right, so that's their big guy. So the bottom line is, who are they going to put on Halliburton? You're not going to have Shea chasing Halliburton. You're probably going to put Dort on Halliburton. And then you're going to have to maybe you'll put Caruso on somebody like Siakam, but Siakam's too good for him, I think. You have to put Jalen Williams on him. But then if Jalen Williams in his first NBA final going to get a little bit of pressure and going to get in foul trouble. So it's going to be interesting to see. Does Carson Wallace get in there and get enough minutes to play some defense? Does, like I said, Isaiah Joe, like you said. So it's going to be really interesting, but I don't think Vegas is talking about a sweep or 4-1.
Oh wait.
That could happen. But to me, you can have a close sweep. You can have a close
Yeah,
4-1 where every game is
yeah.
tight.
Yep. You certainly.
I don't think this is going to be blowout series stuff. I think these are going to be good games. It is going to be fascinating, though, because like I said, Rick Carlisle's got to play a little more zone here because I think you got to mess with their head a little bit. And at the same time, I don't know if you can zone them. I know Dagnow loves to do it once in a while too, so maybe he believes in it. And I think that the Thunder might be quick enough, or maybe they could cover against the Pacers in the zone. But the matchups now are going to be key. Who's covering who? And that's where the first 5 minutes of game one are fascinating. I assume Dort's covering Halliburton. And I
I
assume that Nemar will be covered
I
by
like
Shea.
I like your idea of the Pacers sprinkling in some zone because the Thunder I don't think have guys that are completely like a knockdown shooter. I think you
No,
have
Jalen Williams and Caruso are going to have to hit it.
yes. Caruso's definitely improved his outside shot, and Jalen Williams can knock it down. But Alexander has struggled with the three this playoff, so
Yes, he
you,
has.
I think you should, I think, sprinkle that in. Holmgren's a coin flip too with his 3-point shot, so I think they should definitely try and test the waters on that. But it is going
Right.
to be absolutely fun to watch. I do
It's gonna be
obviously
fascinating.
you're not going to have Alexander and Halliburton guarding each other. That's probably not going to happen. You usually have your off guard there, but man, these matchups are definitely going to be fascinating. Uh, Miles Turner as a front court player going against Hartenstein, I'm really looking forward to see what happens with that.
Jets got to cover Pascal Siakam, I would assume.
Yes, or because I think if Holmgren guards him, I think Siaka might have his way with him. I think he's a savvy guy and he's got it.
Well, the funny thing we got to watch with that matchup, if Chet does cover him, is that Pascal's not a physical guy, and that's how you hurt Holmgren. If he tries to go over him, Holmgren is so long he could bother Pascal, even though Pascal's a better player.
Right.
Pascal's stuff
It's more
is
leverage
spacing up.
and
Yep.
spinning off of guys. Yeah, you're right. It's not he's not a
And
bruiser.
so if you could do what Randall should have done and get through Holmgren's chest, but Pascal's not that kind of player, so we really have to see if he's going to try to finesse it. Now, Pascal loves that, fade away over the right shoulder, and he loves to turn in with the right shoulder and then spin and go fade away. I mean, he's so
I
good
think
at that. He's
that's the
such a great
matchup,
player.
right? I don't think they'll put Holmgren on Turner. I think Hartenstein will guard Turner. I think that's what I believe.
Yeah, I don't think Hartenstein could cover Pascal. Pascal's a fucked up matchup because he's playing a power forward, but he's really a small forward. So, like, this is where, again, older teams back in the day would punish this shit right here. Because you gotta like you saw that Carl Anthony Towns when Pascal covered him, he even took him off the dribble, which we talked about. I can't believe that
Yes,
Carl could take him off the dribble, but
he did a bunch
you
of times
gotta.
too. Bunch of
And
times.
here's the problem though for the Thunder. Your Holmgren and your advantage is that you Pascal's covering you. He's 5 inches shorter than you, but you're not a power guy, so you can't overwhelm Pascal. But Pascal can't overwhelm Holmgren either. It's a finesse situation here, so this is going to be wild.
How about Siakam, Uncle Dave, in the Knicks series? He averages 25 points on 52% shooting. I mean, he had a great series. I mean,
He learned a lot from Kawhi Leonard, I guess, because
yeah,
Kawhi was a solid player.
that's a damn good series he had. And he averaged over a steal a game. I mean, he was incredible.
Yep,
He definitely MVP, I think, of that playoff. He definitely was deserving of it.
definitely was.
I mean,
It's gonna be a fascinating series. I just love these matchups, and we'll see. But then zone can hide these matches. Like I said, neither guy is a physical guy, but Holmgren has the height to take advantage of Siakam, but not the physicalness.
it's also like you said, what Shaquille O'Neal talked about the others. Mathurin finally had a breakthrough game too.
Yep.
So maybe he's gonna have confidence coming into this. And Obi Toppin, man, he really had a great game six too. So he's
Yes,
in
he did.
transition is exciting too. And defensively,
Yep.
he has some versatility to himself too. So I
That's what
think,
happens. The others step up and win you games, and it doesn't matter how you do it. We could sit there and go through every sport, and there's always guys who are unknown who step up.
I mean,
And if you get
Jarris
one of those
Walker,
guys to win
Jarris
your game,
Walker didn't have any minutes, and he came in and had a big dunk for them. I mean, it's just incredible how
yep.
some of these things can work themselves out here.
And Lou Dort averaged 30 minutes, but shot 38% for the series. Now, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I'm not even guarding this fucking guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is where you got to play those weird zones. Like, just know that Dort's guy is the helper. That's what you got to talk about. Dort's guy's got to be the
Hey, you
helper.
got to tell him he goes outside of the foul line. You don't follow him. You let him
No,
go.
you don't follow him. If he cuts to the basket, yeah, we got to
You're
address it.
waiting
But you
for
know
him.
what?
Yeah, you're waiting for him, right?
I'm not chasing this guy. I guess Lou Dort's got it. You might get in his own head. I love him as a player. I want him on my team. But you lose his defense if he can't make a shot. And this is the other subtlety that happens in a 7 game series that doesn't happen again when you're flying in on a Tuesday and playing on a Wednesday. It's not the same shit. So right now you're sitting there, you're watching film, your whole staff, you got 25 guys on the staff just looking for an edge. That's how, freaking David Lee gave the Warriors the edge. You had the freaking 20th assistant find that out in the Warriors series. So the bottom line is that some unknown assistant suggests that David Lee start. It changed the whole series. So the situation is you look at this and you say to yourself, well, what are we going to do? So you can get Dort out of this game if you don't guard him. It puts pressure on OKC to sit there and make sure they put a guy in who's a threat. And if you can get in his head and he doesn't make them, now you shorten your bench because Dort, who's really your best defender, all of a sudden isn't chasing Halliburton around. So
No,
now
then
Caruso's got to do it.
then defensively they're not as good of a team at that point. Yeah, you have to try to see if you can take a guy out of a series that way.
You have to see if you can take him out of a series by what you force him to do on the offensive end. Now, the Knicks did a great job of that with Nemhard. They weren't even guarding him for a while. And then they also were doing the same thing with Toppin, because Toppin was 1 for 11 from three until the other night. Stan Van Gundy's bitching about Cat going under the screen. Well, the guy's 1 for 11. You're told to go under the screen and 1 for 11. So you really got to see what little mastermind maneuvers both teams playing each other, because you could cheat off a Nemhard sometimes too. But now Nemhard had a great game the other night, so we have to see what this is going to turn out to be. So somebody's going to make this subtle adjustment here, and we're going to have to see. Is Mathurin step up, or is it only good for 2 or 3 games? Does Bryant now get a little momentum and help you? Because, OKC likes to play zone. Can Bryant hit the short corner three? Short corner two? I'm sure he can. But does he play well? Is Bradley back and healthy again? Because Bradley on the baseline is a shot blocker and he's thick. So he could help you in this series, but is he healthy? We got to see.
I think the key thing to watch in this series with how both teams can run and get big leads on each other, what is the open court turnover situation going to be like? That's the
Oh,
thing. Who
God.
commits more of those? Who causes more of those? I think that's going to be huge in deciding these games, I think. Because
Plus, yeah. And
both
you want to see if the Thunder fall in the trap. If the Thunder run up and down, I know what everybody's thinking. Well, how could you say that, coach? The Thunder want to run up and down, but the Thunder don't want to run up and down and shoot threes. If the Thunder run up and down, it's got to be layups and mid range. If you run up and down and shoot threes with the Pacers, you will lose this series. If you run up and down and get layups, you will win this series. But if you want to run up and down and play the Pacers way with threes, you will lose. That's not the Thunder's strength.
for
The
what it's
Thunder are
worth,
great at mid range.
for what it's worth, too, the Thunder and the Pacers play each other twice this year. The Thunder won both those games,
Yep,
132 to 111 and 120 to 114.
that's
And
right.
Alexander in both those games, Uncle Dave, he had 33 the first time and 45 in the second time.
Right.
So it's gonna be obviously that's in March and December, so we're quite a ways past that, but
Right.
that's what happened the 2 times they matched up.
My point is, you don't want to see Shea settling for threes in this series
No,
because he shot 31% from three. That's not who he is. So if you fall into that trap, it's like when you play teams in whatever high school AAU level, you know that's everybody wants to play fast, but not everybody has the skill to play fast.
I think
And
what's going
so,
to be interesting too for the Pacers is you just played a team. Obviously, Shea Alexander is a different player than Jalen Brunson, but it's going to be a very similar game plan. I think how they guarded Brunson and how they're going to guard Alexander. I think you had a very ball dominant point guard who tried to draw fouls. It's the same thing, I think, with this approach.
absolutely. And Indiana can be turnover prone themselves. And so both these teams made a living off the turnovers. So now one of them is going to see if they can make a living off the turnovers again. And which one's going to make a living off the turnovers? And like I said, they both like to run. But if you want to run and shoot threes and you're OKC, you're making a big mistake.
Boy, okay, yeah. I mean, so you have the Pacers and the Thunder here in the finals. The Thunder won 68 games this year, and the Pacers won 50. So there's an 18 win difference there over the course of the whole season. But the two times the Thunder matched up with the Pacers certainly had their way with them. But like I said, those are games that happened 5, 6 months ago. These teams are entirely different. But boy, obviously game one Thursday night. Definitely cannot wait to see what happens there.
Gonna be a
Uh,
blast.
but I think my prediction, Uncle Dave, for this series is I have the Thunder winning this 4-2. That's what I'm going to put as my prediction
All
for how
right.
this series
Now
goes.
is this a 2-3-2 series or is it a 2-2-1-1-1? Just look at game
Yeah,
six.
so game 3 and 4 will be at Indiana. So yeah, then game 5, if there is one, then you'll have at Oklahoma City, then back to
All right.
Indiana, and then back to
All right.
OK.
So it's 2-2-1-1-1. Okay. It's
Yep,
not two
yep,
three two. All right.
yep, yep.
Mm.
2-2-1-1-1. Yep.
Wow. These games I think will be pretty good. I could see it. I could see either team winning. I could see it being close and even going 4-2 either way or 4-1 either way. Because I think the games could be close here. I know that there's a little more depth on OKC, but I just think they're a little bit better shooting team than the Pacers. Again,
Well,
both
that's the
well
thing. The
coached.
Pacers, I think, are more lucrative offensively, but the Thunder are a better defensive team. So it's going to be
Absolutely.
whose strength winds up coming out on top. And like you talked about with Shaq's quote with the others, who steps up here? Does Thomas Bryant have some more moments like how he had against the Knicks in that game 6? Do you have a guy like Isaiah Joe step up?
Yeah, every night you gotta
We'll
see who can
see.
ring the bell, and that's what makes coaching so hard. You gotta hit the right puzzle. But the other thing, like I said, if you don't guard everybody, you put pressure on the Thunder to take the guy out. So Dort is your best defender. All of a sudden, you don't guard him. It puts pressure on the Thunder to get him out of there.
I
So
think
you
what's
can get a great
exciting.
defender off the floor.
Yep, exactly. I think what's exciting too is we love when the Lakers and the Celtics are in the finals, or the years that you had with the Warriors and the Cavaliers with Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Kyrie and Kevin Love and Klay Thompson on the Warriors. We love that, but I think it's great to see two teams. Someone's going to win their first championship here in the NBA. The
Yeah,
Thunder, before when they were the Sonics, had won in 1979. Obviously, they are
remember
not
that one?
Seattle
DJ,
Supersonics. Yep, they're not the
DJ, and
Supersonics
Gus
anymore.
Williams in the backcourt. The Wizard, Gus Williams.
So as the Thunder, this would be their first championship, and the Pacers have not won an NBA championship. They won in the ABA. So
That's
someone's going
correct.
to get their first here. So that's exciting. And Middle America is definitely getting represented well here, Indiana and Oklahoma. So we're going to have,
And
I
you know
think,
what?
it's going to be a
I wish
blast to see
Coastal
them get
America would
first.
pay attention to how good both fan bases are.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine the New York Knicks fans all wearing the same shirt?
No way. No way.
They'd be
Most,
like, "Yeah, fuck this, bro. I'm not
yeah.
doing that
And
shit."
celebrities never do that. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and then Indiana's the loudest arena there is. So, the funny thing is, like I said, this is a really exciting brand. But I said I have a feeling there'll be a big swing somewhere, and it's going to be a 4-1 or a 4-2 either way. If somebody's going to blow a game, and that'll be that. I mean, you blow one of these games. We saw it. We talked about this after game one. You blow a game like that, it's very hard to win. Name me the team that just totally fucking gave away a game. Lakers in '84. They give that game away with Gerald Henderson. They
Game
lost that
two.
series in
Yep.
seven.
Yep. Game two. Yep. That's the game.
Should have been up. Yep, they're done. Pistons give away that game with the steal by Bird. They lose. Don't give away those You don't give away those magical losses and,
When
and
you
win.
have victory and it slips through your fingertips, you have to win an extra game. Basically,
Yeah, you
it
do.
takes
Like
the life
like,
out of
like
you.
Kenny Smith said last night, you have to win five on those nights, and
Yeah.
it's hard to win fives.
We talked about
It's
it too.
awful.
Game one with the Rockets and the Magic in the '95 finals. The Magic have control of
Yep.
that whole game and they let it slip away. And the Rockets,
Oh
they
God, it was awful.
demoralized, and the Rockets just have their way with them the rest of the series. And that's,
Nick Anderson just has to make a free throw,
yep, exactly. Misses four in a row, and that's the difference right there.
and that's not something that Nick Anderson usually did.
Yep. So I think it's going to be obviously it's going to be a blast. Interesting to see, and two teams that have never matched up before in the finals, so you have that as well. I definitely, me and you as just diehard basketball fans, love this because it's just something that we're going to see for the first time, and
Yeah,
we don't give a damn if what anyone else thinks. And I definitely think it's going to be a fun watch. You have two exciting matchups, I think, too, because you have the MVP of the NBA now. Someone's going to have a great legacy here. You're going to have Rick Carlisle winning his second ring and Halliburton, and you're going to look at Siakam in a different light. Or the Thunder are going to win, and they're going to have their first championship as well. And you're going to look at Alexander differently and Jalen Williams, and it's going to, Mark Daigneault, he's going to have his first championship. So someone's going to have a great storyline here, no matter what the
yeah,
outcome. So it's definitely
yeah.
going to be exciting to see. And obviously, we don't hope for any injuries, like you talked about. The NBA playoffs, they've reared their ugly head in this in this playoff too.
Yeah, just
Damian
stay
Lillard
healthy.
was
Everybody stay healthy.
blowing his Achilles, Steph going down, Steph Curry. You had, a couple of injuries here. The Cleveland Cavaliers too. It seemed like they just couldn't catch a break and they fell apart. All the wheels fell off on them. So
Tatum.
yeah, Jason Tatum. So we're hoping that that just does not happen here, and all teams are fully healthy and they're able to just play to their full potential, and whoever comes out on top comes out on top.
Yeah, the only talk I don't like so far is they're talking about how OKC could become a dynasty. I'm
You
like,
have to
hey,
win one first,
did,
right?
did you win shit yet? I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Everybody all year was like Celtics, Celtics, Celtics. We said it before Tatum got hurt. Celtics were nicked up. And by the way, they're going to lose that Tatum game anyway. They were done.
Yeah, exactly. They
We
were going to be
told you they
down
were nicked
3-1.
up.
They were going to be down 3-1, yeah,
Yep.
regardless.
And we
Yeah.
told you Porzingis was not the same. And we told you that Brown was nicked up. And we
Yep.
were right.
Yeah. Yep. And Drew Holiday also as well had some issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so did Tatum. Before he got hurt, he had some issues. He had a wrist
Yes.
issue.
Yep, exactly. So the
It's
Celtics,
hard to get this shit done. So I don't care how deep you are.
right.
It's great to be deep, but at the same time, you still got to be fortunate and not get hurt.
I think obviously whoever wins this championship, if they're back in the finals next year, then you could talk about maybe potentially if they win a second one in a row. Then
Sure.
if you haven't won anything yet, you can't talk like that. It's just totally
How about this too? In the current landscape right now, I would say the Eastern Conference has better teams at the top than the West. Again, I'm not impressed. They played the Wolves, they played a Nuggets team with no depth, and they played, the Memphis Grizzlies. They're not gonna. They haven't played someone nearly as good as the Pacers yet. Whereas at least the Pacers played the Knicks. Okay, and they played the Cavs. All right, so they've played some good teams here. Whereas I don't believe that those other teams would have beaten the Knicks or the Cavs. I just don't think that the T Wolves are ready. I know they've been to the finals, conference finals twice. The Nuggets have no bench. I just can't believe they're making it this far in these games. They're just running out of juice. Thunder are lucky to be here. So the bottom line is, I just don't think they've played as team as nearly as good as the Pacers. Whereas I think the Pacers at least have faced some smoke.
boy. I think yeah, the Pacers I think have been more battle tested than the Thunder in this playoff. Now, obviously, the Thunder
Yeah.
went to a 7 game series with the Nuggets, but they just kind of had their way in that seventh game. So I mean, they did. I guess you can say they were pushed a bit in that series, especially with the Aaron Gordon game winner. So they definitely
Yeah.
had to face some adversity there. But
But
like
my
you said,
point
not a
is,
ton though.
I don't think the Nuggets are that good a team. It's just that they have the best player in the world.
Thursday night, we're gonna get one slice of the pie here to figure out what's going on.
Yes, can be very exciting.
But not to rub it in too much, Knicks fans, but a former Knick is going to get their first championship, either Isaiah Hartenstein or Obi Toppin. So a former Knick will win a
Right.
championship this year.
And I'd like to send a shout out to Paul George, who's helped both these teams be here tonight.
I saw that as well. Yes.
And I
Yes.
like Paul George.
Yes.
Indiana Pacer Paul George with Roy Hibbert, loved him. But
Yes.
he's one of the most overrated players in history, not because he's not a great player, but because what's expected of him is not even ever what he's ever even come close to delivering. He's never the guy who can be the guy for long. I thought that Pacer team is an excellent team, but he's never been that guy. I've never seen a guy that everybody just keeps waiting for to take off. It's like waiting for Kawhi to be healthy. It's never going to happen again.
My problem with Paul George is he's just too much go with the flow, just not enough of a killer kind of guy. You know what I mean? Very
He
nice
winds up
player.
on the Sixers, nothing on the Sixers. You wind up on the Clippers, nothing on the Clippers. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, this guy's been on some loaded teams. He never steps up.
Yeah, I obviously his Pacer years, he was an excellent player, and the beginning of his OKC tenure was okay, but he's just in the playoffs just had some clunkers. So, yeah,
Isn't he on the Clippers with
this is
like John Wall and Kawhi Leonard?
this is the Paul George final, his two of his former teams here. So how ironic is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, but
And
he helped them all get here because of the trades they made for him.
yes, it's true. Yes.
Shea for Paul George and like 3 picks. Holy shit.
Yep.
Shea's sitting there laughing his ass. How could you trade Paul George? How could you trade Shea for Paul George? What are you out of your fucking mind?
Think
He's got
also
him by 10 years. He's got him by 10 years and an enormous amount of health.
we have now two teams. I think the only two players that have championship and finals experience on these teams is Alex Caruso, who's on the Thunder when he was with the Lakers in 2020 when they won in the bubble. And you have Pascal Siakam on the Pacers, who won with the Raptors in 2019. So you factor that in too. I don't know what kind of roles those guys are going to have. That could impact the series one way or the other. So we'll see what happens. Both guys are obviously major contributors to their teams. So we'll see, does that play a factor into this as well. But I think obviously those guys are going to have input on what to expect because the other guys, they don't have any experience in the finals. So it's the
Yeah.
finals. NBA finals is like the Super Bowl. It's a different beast. The Thunder will get first licks here in game one at OKC. And that place is going to be juiced.
Gonna be rocking.
Because like both buildings are going to be, and like I said, I'll be happy for either fan base and both teams here, regardless. It's
Yeah,
just I'm hoping
me
to
too.
be a great finals. But it's obviously the first thing I thought of when they got to the finals was the years they had Durant and Westbrook and Harden.
Oh yeah.
If they're able to close this out with this group here, it's going to be, they'll be viewed as the immortalized Thunder team, not those teams anymore.
Sure.
Once you win one with a group, I feel like, especially your first one, that's going to be looked at as the
Yep.
team that's they were the guys.
Serge Ibaka and Perk.
Yes, yeah, no, that was a great team, no doubt. But that was a team that unfortunately fell short against the Heat. And boy, the Pacers, boy, since they haven't been to the finals since 2000, so 25 years Indiana fans have waited for the Pacers to get back, and
Got
they
their ass
definitely
whooped too.
they had some, yeah, they did, yeah. The Lakers were just had their way with them, but they had some good teams, I will say, with David West and Roy Hibbert and Paul George and George
Those
Hill.
teams are just never athletic enough.
They were very, very, very good. Those teams, Lance Stevenson as well. They were definitely
It's
Jan Mahimi. They were damn good. But just again, you ran up against the Heat with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, so it was
yep,
hard
yep,
to go over
yep.
to hurdle them. And obviously the Knicks were tough too as well, and the Celtics, they were damn good too. Obviously they had aged a bit, but you still had Paul Pierce and Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett. So the East
Sure.
was tough then as well. And it was good. Those Atlanta teams too with Jeff Teague and Kyle
Yeah.
Korver. Those
Yeah, I just really think right now the East at the top is better. I think the West might have better depth, but the East at the top is better. I
yeah.
mean,
We'll
the
see
West,
what
I
happens.
just don't see any
We'll
threats.
see what happens with free agency too. You figure a team like Philadelphia, maybe they can have a second win with Joel Embiid. We'll see what happens. But definitely looking forward to this game one Thursday night, and we'll definitely have a show for you guys either Thursday night or Friday,
Yep.
folks. We'll be covering the NBA Finals here with nephew and Uncle Basketball Banter as always, and I guess we'll sign off there, Uncle Dave, unless you have anything you want to add here before.
No, I'm just really excited about the games and watch those games within the games. Watch those matchups in the first 5 minutes
Yes.
and watch and see if they don't guard anybody. I'm telling you right now, I'm not guarding Dort to start the game. I want to get in his head.
Yeah, Indiana, I don't know if they have a guy where you can do that with on their starting
Well, you
rotation.
have to try Nemhard out. Nemhard didn't do shit for 5 games, so now you gotta see.
Yeah, he's a guy who can definitely get going though, so we'll see. Obviously, I don't think you could just play the lay off him kind of game. Maybe a guy like Obi Toppin when he's in there, they'll try something like that.
Sure. Yeah,
But we'll
sure.
see. I think it's like you said, the games within the games, the coaching matchup too. We're going to see. Does Rick Carlisle maybe go to a little zone here? Obviously, the Thunder are very much different than the Knicks, so you can't approach them at all the same way. The only thing that's similar, like I said, is the dominant stud point guard on the ball who
Well,
has a
my
high
point
usage
is
rate.
you couldn't play the Knicks zone because Cat's too good a shooter and so is
Exactly.
Brunson.
Exactly.
But
Yes.
you could definitely play OKC a zone. So
Yeah.
you definitely got to match up to Caruso and Jalen. But I
The
tell
rest
you
of the
what,
guys,
man,
like
I
you
give a
said,
shot.
funnel the ball to them and make them shoot. Yep.
I gotta match up to that, and then maybe when Caruso comes in, you go back to man. But if Lou Dort's in, I go zone. I make him shoot. Like that way, I take it out of their hands. That's the way you can like mess. It's a great plan to do it. But you gotta see if that's what they believe. Maybe Indiana thinks they can take him out man to man. I'm still waiting for someone to exploit Halliburton on the defensive end. No one's really done it yet.
Yeah, we talked about it. Guys that have especially a point guard who has the ball in his hands a lot, punish that guy defensively, make him guard, run him off zones. I mean, run him off screens. You have to do those kind of things, and maybe you can affect the guy over the course of the series. The
Hmm.
front court matchup, like we talked about too, really interested to see with that. I think you have to play Holmgren on Siakam, and you have to play Hartenstein on Turner. We'll see.
Yeah.
Obviously, foul trouble with these teams. Like I said, the Knicks, Towns kept getting into foul trouble. It seemed like every damn game. So we'll see. Obviously, how the games are officiated. That's obviously a big thing as
Oh,
well.
it's huge in NBA Finals over the years. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. How
But the
teams.
other thing is, can Hartenstein pop out and cover Turner? Because Turner likes to shoot the
Well,
three.
that's the thing. Hartenstein likes to hover around the basket. He likes to be under in the paint. So you're gonna have to now guard Turner because Turner could fill it up from three. We'll have a very good idea of what to expect after game one. How these coaches, they're getting inside the coach's mindset and how they might make adjustments here. But obviously, going to be
Yeah,
exciting.
it's gonna be
Cannot
really
wait to
exciting.
see who gets their first NBA crown here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun because these matchups, these subtleties are gonna be a blast.
Yep, and like I said, only two times in the regular season, Thunder won them both. But like we talked about, that's meaningless now. We're in June. The last game they played was in March, so
Yeah.
you could throw that away
Yep.
for all it's worth now. All
Yeah.
right, but yep, all right, folks, we'll sign off on that. But obviously, enjoy the game Thursday night. We'll have our show either late Thursday night or Friday for sure.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so folks, take care. May the force be with you, and live long and prosper.